G'day. It's Sam from Earth Cadet and Bendigo Records, and I'm here with co-host Bella of this new podcast that we don't have a name for yet, Bella.
We don't have a name. Happy to be here.
Why are we doing this podcast?
We want to start the conversation, and I think make people feel like they can discuss and comment in like a safe kind of way, where like we're not here to like name and shame anyone or bag the industry out or anything like that. It's more like a way to connect and to like vent like in a respectful way, and also to share ideas, and actually it's like motivation for us to keep going, because I always hear people say, oh, don't give up. It's like, I'm not going to, but sometimes it really feels heavy and it's hard. So I think it's nice just to have like a community and share around the love of, motivation behind why you do music.
100%. We're both independent musicians, and the first time I reached out to you was you'd posted something about Bandcamp, and I DM'd you about it. And I feel like since that time, like a year ago, whenever it was, like the majority of our chats on Insta have been music industry related, and there's some real nuggets in there. And we kind of like, for a little while now, we're like, we should probably share this because other people, let's all navigate this crazy industry together. And we thought a great way to start today would be to talk about branding, because everybody's like I was about to say, in today's age of music and the music industry, everybody's a brand, but it's always been that way. There's just more work now to maintain it for the independent musician. Your branding, I thought, was so on point, because I think before I talked to you, it was like so well like married to how your songs sound to me, and that kind of like ethereal, like mysterious siren that like writes these like gigantic songs. And it kind of, that was the vibe. That was what I got off the Instagram page. And so when I messaged you that first time, I'm like, she's not going to reply. She's like this like otherworldly Florence and the Machine style person that's not going to reply to me, as I'm looking at that Florence poster that's very lovely in your background.
No.
And then like when we started chatting, I was like, oh no, she's just like as down to earth, if not more so than anyone.
I mean, you're the Earth Cadet now. No, thanks for that. That's really kind. And I mean, talking about perceptions of each other, like I think that when you replied to my Bandcamp post, it just made me feel like validated and heard, that you were so like, yeah, that's really terrible that that's happened to you. Like you sounded genuinely sorry about that. And I was like, this guy kind of gets it. But one thing that I've loved looking at over the past however long is that you seemed straight away to me, you seemed like a very confident but a very warm, and you just like, you've got a good energy and you're really funny, but you also were very approachable. So I thought the way that you talk to your audience on your Instagram stories just made me feel like this guy just seems approachable and easygoing. But if we think about Earth Cadet, like how are you the musician that you are today?
What's an all an act? Like, I'm not that approachable, and I'm a grumpy guy. No, I'm really glad that came across. Thank you for saying that, Bella. I'm glad that has come across, because that's who I like to think I am in everyday life. I was in a ton of bands. Like, you play music for a really long time. I was in a lot of bands that I didn't think about branding very much. Didn't, think about, selling more than just the music. And as it was, I think people talk about the olden days, and to me, the olden days are like 2006. Things weren't that different to what they are now. It was just Facebook instead of Instagram. Really, people still weren't coming to my gig.
Don't you mean MySpace? Don't you mean MySpace?
100%. My first band's first EP was on MySpace. 100%. I tried to find those tracks the other day, like on, because MySpace still exists, and I was wondering if I searched Silver Bullet Theory if I could download all those tracks. But no, I'll have to go into like the Internet Time Machine or something. But
I feel like it's not working. But it would be great if it was like time captured properly. I'm sure someone's done it, but I don't know if it's accessible.
Yeah.
Um,
So yeah, that was like my era. And then I went and did a sound course, a music course at RMIT, and started like working out a little bit. And I started putting a lot of effort into my record store, Bendigo Records. And I was like, what if I like channeled some of what I've learned here about branding and about how to talk to people in front of the camera and all those different things, and start to apply that to my music. And so I had this band
mhm.
named Earth Cadet from like an old electronic music project that was very bad. And I was like, well, that
Sure.
sounds like an alt rock band, so
Mm.
I'll yoink that. And yeah, started playing some shows and music and taking it really seriously probably the last year or so. How
When you
long's
say
Belladere
taking
been going?
how long's Belladere? Belladere's only been around since 2022. That's when I launched it as a
Yeah.
rebrand. Prior to that, I was just performing under my own name, and I had a band name that went with that.
Yeah.
I really was inspired by like Jen Clower and the Endless Sea and like Claire
Yeah.
Bowditch and the whoever's like. I was like,
Yeah.
I need that. I need that. So that was kind of on brand at the time. But
Courtney and the Barnetts. Wait. No,
Caught Me
that's
on
the
the
other one.
Barnets.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I did a show with Courtney in the early 2010s, and just seeing
Wow.
how her career took off really kind of made me go, music is a possible thing to
Yeah.
do. Um, yeah, I don't know. I really
But
wanted
you've been
to,
playing for years and years and years, and in other acts and bands, and
yeah,
yeah,
like I guess like you, bands early did rock bands, did like alternative, groovy sort of bands. And I always just came back to being the primary songwriter and wanting to do my stuff. Like so many people wanted me to be in other bands, but I came to the conclusion that no, I want to focus on my stuff.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, it wasn't till COVID hit that I actually took a step back and went, well, I can't play shows. It's time to do the rebrand. So I
yeah,
kind of spent all of COVID doing so many different things that actually didn't go anywhere, but at
yeah.
least I was doing something. It's important to plan things, but I don't know. I don't know about you, but for me, like playing live's like a really good carrot. It's like if you can do all these things and get organized, you can play live. Here's the carrot.
Yeah, yeah. Why? It's the reason why so much of us do what we do. That ability to play those songs in front of other people and have that sort of instant feedback. Because I think in the day
Mm,
and age of the internet, it's hard to get that feedback in the same way. But people are engaging more online with us than they are in person. I want to
yeah,
talk
that's.
about the
Oh, sorry.
rebrand a little that you went through, and what did you have an inspiration or somebody that you, and has it changed in the 2-3
Mm.
years now that you've been Belladere?
I remember looking like one of my friends was encouraging me. Aubrielle is her brand name, her musician name, but she encouraged me to like start a Pinterest and start, you know, looking at female artists that I really liked and
Yeah,
the type of photography that they did. And I
yeah,
remember, I think there was like a black and white Lady Gaga picture, and I actually can't remember her name, but London Grammar. There was
yep,
a lot
yep,
of black and white photography, and I remember
yeah,
taking some photography at the start of 2020, but again, because I didn't release music then, that kind of got old really quickly, like as in the photography. So I kind of
yeah,
had to think again about how I was going to rebrand, and I did that by starting a Possible campaign and then making sure I had a music video and could launch my first single as Belladere, because I actually recorded songs for Belladere in
yeah.
2019,
Oh
and so
wow,
that
okay.
didn't release till 2022.
Wow. Okay. And so that Possible campaign, that was people familiar with your old brand, is that right? Like
Correct.
those
So it was
friends.
almost a way to say, hey, this is who I am, but it's still me, but this is my new brand. And I had really good feedback from that. But again, like you said, like it's the music's the most important thing, but you do have to do all the other groundwork. But I was
Yeah.
fortunate in that I did have a following already,
Yeah.
and they paid for my first music video, so
Yeah.
that was good.
And then you were able to drag them along with the new name and the new
Yeah,
music, and like,
I do
because
think though.
the songs aren't that far apart. Like it's not like you'd had a
Mm,
giant EDM following and then suddenly you're doing,
exactly.
yeah,
it wasn't too far. But I think you do lose people along the way. Like that's just natural. Like if people don't know your new name, how are they going to know it's you? And I don't know about you in your previous projects, but I never used to put my face to my music.
Yeah.
Like
Same.
my old EPs just had artwork. They never had real photos of me. I never really put my picture up much.
Yep.
But your face is a big asset too. You've got to
That's
remember.
100%. Some
How'd
may
you
say,
go?
I think in the like today's day and age, like the biggest asset that you have is, so much of how people are interacting online now and what's doing well is interacting with people on a face-to-face thing. And that was always a big priority for us at the shop, was that all the Bendigo record stuff would be, you could put a face to what was being told to you, or like, and I
As in your
dragged a lot
staff,
of that.
or as
Yeah,
in the staff?
staff and to us, and that like there were personalities and real people behind, rather than just random record covers or that sort of thing. And I was seeing that sort of trend within music as well, that a lot of the musicians that were popping off, like, I guess Billie Eilish is a great example. Like, let's go to the top. But like her face is on everything. Like from that Ocean Eyes on SoundCloud, it's her face, like right here. And that's
her
the
hair and her hair color.
like that's her
It's a
constant
brand.
through her whole career, is that connection with the fans is so visceral and immediate. It's really hard now, I think, and I've seen some bands try to kind of not do that. Bands especially, like bands love hiding behind an aesthetic that might not have them in it, or they get so dressed up within the cliche that it's not really them, if that makes any sense. Like I'm not
Like they're
calling out
pretending.
metal specifically, but I'm kind of calling out metal. But like it's that sort of thing where like I think you're afraid of, because it can be exhausting, that kind of constant talking to the camera or constantly having your
Some
picture
people
taken.
don't like doing that, and I get that in terms of genres like that. Like a metal band talking to the camera might not come across as very cool either, or
No.
I don't know. They want the music to speak for themselves, which is fair. But I do think it's nice to see who the person is behind the music, like even if it is a genre that doesn't really traditionally do that.
Do you find it easier to connect with a new artist if they do have like that sort of like one-on-one, like that
I
sort
mean,
of
I personally like that, but I think it needs to be something that makes you go, "Oh, that's them," whatever
Yeah.
it is. Like whether it's the color or the logo, or it's a certain stylized way that they present their stuff.
Yeah.
I think it's hard to do it though, and I don't even know if I do it well. But I mean, is there like a way that you like curate your Instagram or curate your website or anything in terms of music?
It's haphazard at the moment, I think. But we made all right, here's some advice in terms of branding for bands that are just starting out. Here we go. We're going to get into the meat of it, Bella. And I don't know if it's working yet. I've got 700 followers. Don't listen to me. Listen to Bella. But here we go. It is a lot easier to sell one person than 5 or 3.
Do you think so?
Yep. It's a lot easier like to tell one person's story than it is to tell 3 separate people's stories. Especially when you're just starting out. And so it's been a real priority for us that like Earth. I explain this to new people that come and play with us, because we're currently like auditioning bass players and people are coming in and out of the band a little bit.
Oh, is this a shout out that you want people to inquire within?
Yeah, why not? Yeah, if you're a bass player, please let me know.
Inquire within.
Yeah. No, like seriously, yeah. We've got a really good guy at the moment, but he's made it very clear that he can't do it full time. I might break him down, but we would love loving you back.
That's a shame. Yeah.
Add over. But I say to new people in the band, I'm like, it's a benevolent dictatorship. And I've been in so many bands where it's just not clear who's leading it. And there's all this tension from the get-go. Like who's writing the songs, who's booking the gigs, who's doing the marketing, who's doing like, and it's a whole bunch of like just the Spider-Man meme where they're
having flashbacks.
Yeah, and it's like it's exhausting, right? And this band has gone the smoothest as possible.
For what?
Yeah, this band has gone the smoothest as possible because I made it really clear from the get-go. I'm like, this is my thing. and everybody can have a say, and I can choose to ignore it. And it's a dictatorship. And then in the end, you won't suffer from it because it'll be my face on everything. And I'll book all the gigs and I'll do all the things. And this is very control freak Sam, but it also has made it so much easier. And I try to like work with people, Micah, who's the current drummer, and Elliot, who played bass with us for a year, that have other creative projects that they can do that thing in. And so that they still feel like they're kind of ticking those boxes for themselves. But when they come to Earth Cadet, it's the Sam thing, right? And my
Right.
biggest source of inspiration, Bella, for that is not you, sorry, but is Kate Baby Shakes Dylan in Full Flower Moon Band. Are you aware of Full Flower Moon Band, Bella?
I think you were talking about them the other day.
They're a
Were
rock
you
band
not?
out of Brisbane, and every all the branding, everything is her, and it's very
Ah,
much that kind of like Iggy and the Stooges thing that like I don't know any of the other names of any of the Stooges. Like
right.
it's that sort of like you're there for Iggy, you're there for um, you're there for Bono, you're there for like those sorts of
Mm,
like those bands where like or Josh Homme in Queens of the Stone Age, those bands where like there's a really clear front person and then the supporting
sure.
cast can come in and out, but it doesn't matter as much because you're not trying to tell their stories, you're just telling
Yeah.
one story. And
Okay.
that has been really that has when your time and resources are limited as an artist, that makes it so much easier when you're just telling one story rather than three.
Okay,
That's
you've
my
sold that pretty well. I do agree with you on all of that. Who's like a band that you can think of that doesn't do any of that well? Without naming names, can you think of any examples of have you ever seen I'm gonna give you an example without naming names, but
yeah.
have you ever come across anyone that you feel like you could help them if you gave them feedback, but to give them the feedback would probably really hurt them and hurt their ego? Have you ever like I'll give you an example. Like I can think of an artist where I would love to give them some advice to help them, but really it would only really hurt them because they really love what they do, but maybe
Yeah.
for their career, like doing some really solid changes may actually improve their output.
Okay.
I don't know. Like, yeah,
Is this
where
a
do you
big
draw the
artist or
line?
is this like an up and coming artist as
Well, it's
well?
like a mid-tier artist, I'd say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can I think of an example? Yeah, I tell people all the time. I'll be honest. People come and ask, like, because we get bands through the shop all the time, whether
Yeah,
they're
you
playing,
do.
and especially young bands and that sort of thing. I'm the guy that's brutally honest if you've got a bad band name, like, which is
Oh.
where branding starts if you're a band, right?
Well, I mean,
Like,
it does. When I went to Big Sound in 2017, I handed my
yeah,
business card to someone. She was someone's manager or something, maybe Holy
yeah,
Holy, I don't remember. And the first thing she said when she saw my old band name, she was like, "That's you need to change that," or like
yeah,
the logo or something. She's like, "That's hard to read." And I remember specifically going, "Oh, wow, really?" And I walked away going, "Oh, wow." And then, I've changed it for the better. But if she hadn't have said
yeah,
that, it wouldn't have made me really think that much.
yeah. It's
Mm.
sometimes yeah, you're planting those seeds, and
Brutally
there's
honest.
like a lot of people being polite and competitive in the music industry. I don't think it hurts to if like and you can't do it with everybody. Like you said, there are some artists that might get hurt. But like there's a high school band that's really, really good and they got a ton of potential and I'm really, really excited about them. I'm not going to name them on here, but they have a bad band name. And I told their guitarist that. I'm like, it's too hard to search. There's like 98 bands named the same thing.
Mm.
The name. And
That's
they'd
the
already
truth.
been thinking about it. And so that's the other thing too. It's like sometimes they just need you to like if you've already been thinking about it, sometimes it's the right move. When it gets
Yeah,
backed
I
up by
agree with that.
somebody that's been around like and not that I'm an expert, but been around a little bit longer. But I recommend that to bands all the time. Like figure out who the leader is. Like, and that's not to say that not everybody can have a role, but like pure democracy doesn't work in bands. Pure democracy is a recipe for disaster because you'll
Yeah.
just end up resenting people for not doing the things that they said they were going to do. And unfortunately, sometimes musicians are amazing and they're so creative and they're the best people in the world, I think, but they're not known for like working really, really hard all the time. And so when you have to drag somebody behind you because, man, but he's so good at trumpet, like,
Yeah,
and it's like, that's always a really, really tough sell.
it
I'm
is. You're
sure we've all
making
come
me
across people like this.
Oh, yeah, you're making me think of I specifically remember doing a gig in regional Vic, and
Yeah.
one of my, I'm just gonna say band colleagues,
Yeah.
rocked up late, and the venue ended up taking some of our pay, and it's like,
Oof.
well, we didn't start when we were supposed to, and they thought that was a really big deal. I mean, it really kind of wasn't, but it is important to be on time and be as
Professional.
professional as you can, and they made me look bad. And,
Yep.
we all learn and live and learn, but that was something that was hard for me to accept, that someone had done that and then docked our pay, essentially. I don't know if
Yeah.
that's technically legal, but that's what happened.
Maybe that's a great segue, Bella, that I think the most important thing for branding for up and coming bands is your reputation in the scene. And you got to be professional. And there are probably a couple of things that just, before things get onto social media or that sort of thing, like, you'll be known by your actions around town. And if you're
Mm,
coming in late all the time, or, inebriated, or, whatever it is that, you're not staying to the end of the headliner's set, you're not watching the support band, like, those little things, like, that reputation will carry with you, and it's really hard to shake that, and that will affect your brand in a
mm.
big way.
I think if you want to take it into the future, then do it for a long time. Like, if it's just a hobby and you don't really care. But I think if you're on the professional level of you wanting to get booked for other things, then absolutely, like, oh, yeah. Have you ever played interstate? Have you ever played interstate, and have you needed to sell yourself to an a community or an area that you've not been familiar with?
No, I think the farthest was Geelong, actually. Like, when we played, we did a
Late
little
last year.
tour for we did a little tour for the EP, and we played Geelong in July. And we
Mm.
didn't know anyone there apart from the bands that we booked. And then it was like our most fun gig of the year. A bunch of
Mm.
people that didn't know
Right.
our music rocked up, and yeah, it was
What's that,
really
sorry?
fun. A bunch of people that didn't know our music rocked up, and people from the
Oh,
local
nice.
guitar store. And so when we went to buy new strings the next day, they were there, and they'd been at the gig the night before, and it was awesome.
Oh, really?
But that's as far out as, yeah. So, but no, it
That's
is
the type of
stressful when you
thing
have to
that I
sell
love.
yourself. What was that? Sorry,
Mm.
Bill.
Oh, that's what I love, when you make little connections like that and it just happens
Yeah.
by accident, and that's for me, that's what's fun about playing live. I was just gonna mention, like, in terms of brand and having music online even, like, I
Mm.
played a gig last year and was talking to some of the, support acts that I'd booked, and, they asked me, how my gig went at Queenscliff Music Festival, and
Yeah.
sort of said, "It's so important for you to have music online." And I was like, "Oh, yeah, I kind of forgot about that. It is really important to have music online."
Yeah.
But what actually made me think before is that playing interstate even,
Yeah.
I've contacted venues in the past where I didn't have as much traction online, I didn't have radio play, and it was
Yeah.
so hard to get those interstate gigs. But as
Yeah.
soon as, like, look, I've had one song play on the Jays, and for me, like, I tried to really use that to get the next thing that I
Yeah.
was trying for in my goals, and playing interstate, like, just being able to say, I've had some radio play. This is what I've been doing. I've played. I've just come back from Korea or whatever, and, like, straight away they're like, "Yeah, what date do you want?" And it's like, "Oh, that was easy." Whereas,
Yeah.
10, 15 years, like 10 years ago, I wouldn't have been able to get that at all. So everything that you build and that stays online is going to follow you. So you want it to be good quality, but you also want to be proud of it. And it's going to help you get the next thing that you want, like building that
Yeah.
resume.
I think that there's like, we all know those bands or those artists like that are sitting on a bunch of really, really great songs, but they're really afraid of putting anything up online because it's not, it doesn't sound like Dua Lipa straight out the gate. And it's like, well, nothing's going to. You got to do your 10,000 hours. And part of that is
Right.
releasing and, like, finishing stuff and then putting it out. And that's
It's
really, really
fun.
hard to do, but it gets easier every time you do it. Like, once you do it
Absolutely.
once, and then that lives there, and you get 4 people listen to it, and you're over the moon. And then the next time you do it, it's easier, and then the time and time again, and then trying to make those contacts, like at the Jays, if you can get played on the Jays, that sounds lovely. And I'm not jealous at all. Don't worry about it. And
There's only once, okay? So don't get too jealous.
one more than me. But like, send it to community radio. Like, reach out to people. I'd like to say the worst you can hear is no, but you won't get a no. They'll just ignore you, which is kind of better. Like, if they don't want to play it, you just don't get a reply, which is kind of better than hearing no, I don't like it.
Sometimes they want to curate their own stuff too. And they don't like cold calling. I mean, I've had plenty of no replies, plenty of no's. Like, a lot of famous people had plenty of no's at the beginning. I was watching a Phil Collins doco the other day online.
Yeah.
And he did, when he first started drumming, he got so many rejections from auditions. He said, I just kept hearing the word no, but I kept going.
Yeah.
Even the best have been rejected.
That's really great, actually. I put it up on my stories yesterday. I had a friend of mine, Ben, who plays bass with Nat Vaser, and another big sound story. Here we go. So I was up there with them when they were showcasing, doing sound, and we had a chat over some dumplings, and I was like, how do you guys keep going? And they're like, we haven't heard enough no's yet. And Ben was like, everybody has a quota of no's that they can hear in this industry before they give it up. He doesn't know how many. He doesn't know how many he has, but he hasn't reached it yet. And
but they're getting a lot of yeses, though.
They do get a lot of yeses, yes. But because they're persistent, right? That thing about the yeses follow you online, but the no's don't. So like when, I sent out REP to, 4ZZZ and Triple R and PBS and FBI and everybody, and it got played on the Trove Show. Like Brett down here locally, Phoenix, great supporter of music, has played both our songs to death. Amazing. And that yes follows me. So I'm like, well, I don't talk about how I didn't get played on FBI. I talk about how I got played on Phoenix. And that helps now when I have conversations with people, and that helps my branding.
That's so true. I wish this could happen in other communities, but there is an amazing human being who is working for commercial radio down here in Geelong, and his name is Chris Holland, and he is playing local artists in his show. And he said he's had a long career in radio, and it's only now that he gets to do what he wants to do.
That's awesome.
But he is a true music lover and a true music fan, and he's advocating for local music. But I told him off radio, I said, I don't think, I just want to say thank you, because me getting a message from someone saying that it's currently playing on the radio, like commercial radio, that means something. And I don't know if you realize what that does to help us get more opportunities. It actually is so important. And I was saying to even my band the other day, if we had that commercial radio 20 years ago, if we were around then, maybe we would have actually had a career in music.
Yeah.
Because that's how you got known back then.
The label system, and
So I think it's important not to get bogged down in what's not happening, because I get bogged down in that. I just try and focus on my next goal and what can I do how can I grind so hard in order to get to that point. And if I get rejected, then something else is going to pop up along the way, I reckon.
100%. Like you can't have a thin skin, or else if you really want to make a go at this, you're gonna have to have a thick skin, because it's just going to be lots and lots of rejections.
So much. In fact,
and
it's the amount of setbacks and rejection it should be illegal, but I think that just makes you a better artist.
Yeah, and it's not to take away from the fact that it hurts, because it obviously hurts. And that doesn't go away, and that's not to invalidate how much it hurts, because certain rejections hurt a lot more than others as well. But it's just going to keep happening. This is just a long game, and I was listening to an artist the other day talk about it, And they had to come to terms with that. They were really, really proud of this album they were putting out. But regardless of how good it was, they had to admit to themselves that nobody breaks on their first album. They have to do 2 or 3 more. And so that understanding of like, and they've already been together 10 years, like grinding up to this point. And it was like that you have to go into this, if you're going in seriously, knowing it's going to be a really long game, like a really, really long game to get. And it will be, you'll see progress, but it will be really, really slow.
It's like drip feeding.
And you got to savor.
Give me a laugh.
You got to savor those little drops when they come through, because
actually, I've got a tip for that for people. I've got a tip for that. Something for positivity. And I can't remember if I wrote it in my lesson journal at the time when I was having some singing lessons, but someone told me at one point to start writing down when somebody gives you a compliment, like musically or artistically. And I played a gig for uni for someone's band for their assessment, and some random guy came up to me at the end and was like, "You're a really great keyboardist. Like that was awesome." And I was like, "Oh, wow, that means a lot," because I really worked hard on this song. It was a genre I didn't particularly like. It was different. I had to work quite hard, and someone noticed. And for me, that was like so good. And it's like, even to this day, I don't remember the way that they looked, or I just remember the comment and how that made me feel. And I'm a big advocate for, like, people may not remember what you teach them or what you looked like or whatever, but they might remember how you made them feel.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, really important to, like, prop people up and not bring people down.
I agree.
If you got nothing else to say, don't say anything at all.
Yes, no, 100%. Like, we've all been there when you go to the band at the end of the set, you're like, you know,
cool.
Don't tell them that the guitar was out of tune, because it's over now.
Hey, that you've just reminded me of another story, if I can share this, because people will find it quite hilarious. There was a very confident person that walked into, again, this is the music course that I did back in Melbourne before COVID, but this person walked in, they were extremely confident, they had a leather jacket, they were like walking the walk, talking the talk. It was like, yo, they were from overseas, they looked so cool, like they were just oozing cool. And I wanted to talk to them because, you know, I was thinking about maybe traveling overseas and doing some shows. And it was like the first performance at our first performance afternoon. I think they're on Fridays, and this person jumped on stage and they got their guitar and couldn't play
at
all. Couldn't play to save themselves.
Oh no.
And I remember sitting there trying not to, like, react, because it just came across as really rude, but I had been sucked in by their walk, talk, everything, that I thought they would hit the shit hot muso. When actually they were just fully cosplaying a musician.
Wow.
And this never happened. I didn't see it happen any other time, but one of the techs came down on stage, like they had turned it up to like 11, and one of the techs came and turned off the amp.
Oh no.
And then they just kept playing. And I was like, this is just a lesson in, if you can fake it, you can make it. But a lot of people do that.
Maybe that's a really good way. Maybe that's a great way to kind of like bring it full circle, is that the most important thing is still the music, and you have to be able to.
I was going to say, you do need to know
how to. If your songs are right and your music's right, yes, you have to be able to market it and you have to be able to brand it and that sort of thing. And you can, I wore a leather jacket for an era of a cadet this year.
It was me, wasn't it? No, joking.
It was me, and I learned how to play in the interim. But
learn to know your instrument. They actually dropped out of the course, I just wanted to say. But it is really important to learn your craft and learn your instrument. And I think as a brand as well, like I've recently started trying to do some cover songs, because I've realized that some people may not hear me first via my originals, they may, because I've been really against doing covers, for a long time, but
Yeah.
I need to get over it because people will connect with a cover a little bit easier than an original song, I think.
Yeah.
Some
I'm really glad
people.
you brought this up because I've started doing the same thing. Yeah.
Mm,
I did Wang
it's
Chung this
hard.
morning.
What's that?
I did Wang Chung this morning.
You did Wang Chung. I'll
You know
have
Wang
to
Chung?
post that.
Everybody have fun tonight. It's like it was a joke song and it was a joke cover. Because I wanted to
Oh,
make a joke. But yeah, I've been
okay.
doing like 1 minute covers on stories, and it's been fun for me to learn, but try to learn a bit more by ear. So like it's a musical thing as well, like trying to like rely less on tabs and chords and stuff. But it's also like just a cool way to play songs that you like. Sometimes it's
Interpret.
introducing other people to another song. Sometimes it's a cool way to reach out to an artist that you like, and then they might
Mm.
share it as well, and then you get a bit of. So I did a cover of an American band that I'm really into at the moment called Bean Stella. They shared it. I picked up a bunch of followers. I did a rival schools
Awesome.
cover. They shared it. I picked up a bunch of followers. A few weeks ago, I covered this small, mid-tier artist out of Geelong called Bella Deer, and I got some followers out
I
of
was
that.
I was about to say, "Oh my god, who? Who was it?"
And that Vasa cover the other day, and so like trying to do that a little bit, and then sometimes, yeah, I do like kung fu fighting on the acoustic.
Woo! Hey, that's like such an easy way. Well, not that easy. You got to learn the songs, but like to actually get real followers out of that. That's what I'm talking
Yeah,
about earlier. Like getting a real, genuine listener
yeah.
that's going to stay with you.
How did the
To say,
ABBA one go for you? Because I saw The Winner Takes It All on your Instagram.
"Oh, well, ABBA is phenomenal, and
Yeah,
I would never try and play anything remotely identical to what they do. But I just love how good the songs are.
yeah,
And once I started practicing it, I was like, oh, it's hard. It's really hard.
yeah.
And at one point, I even had my dinner all over my face and I was getting tired. And I'm like, you know what? I don't care if I've got zucchini on my face. I'm just going to post this because I want to go to bed now. But I think people really appreciated that I followed through and did
Yeah,
what I said I would. And I think that's important too, like following through. And but I love your covers. I love your covers. I haven't been shared like you have. I've just get the whole thumbs up, like the love heart and no answer. So
I
maybe,
was
why do you reckon those artists are applying to you? How do you think?
because
How'd you?
they're under 30,000 followers, and
Mhm.
so they're just easier and more approachable. So their DMs aren't completely blocked with, like, could you imagine Billie Eilish's DMs of
I
just
don't even think she'd
four
see them.
covers of Ocean Eyes or Happier Than Ever? Like, oh my god,
Surely
delete.
it's managed in a different way. Would have
Um, oh yeah. Well, yeah. One I didn't get. I did a Nilla for Yanya one the other day. That did not get shared. She's too big now. And I'm like, that's okay.
to.
Um,
At least you
but
tried.
it was cool. You put yourself out there, and so you were thinking of like the little things that like keep you going, and like the when people say nice things.
Mm.
Walter Walter Schreifels, the lead singer from Rival Schools, reached out and said, "Great job." And I'm like, he's one of
Oh,
my musical heroes. So I'm
that's
like,
amazing.
that's gonna keep me going for ages. So like that's really, really exciting. So you got to kind of hang on to those things a little bit.
You should
For
write
sure.
that down. Write it in a journal or a piece of paper or have like your like wall of affirmations. And I
Yeah.
know I've talked to you about this, but I've started doing daily journaling from the week one of The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron.
Yep.
And one of my other friends said that there's another thing I should listen to that he thinks is better than
Okay.
that book. But just for me, it's
Is
like
it
being
this
accountable.
podcast right here? He's probably talking about this podcast right now.
In fact, we should probably get him on because he loves a
Yeah.
yarn and he's a
That'd be
musician from Bendigo. You're the musician from Bendigo. He's
Yeah.
from Ballarat. But I mean, yeah, there's heaps of people I could ask for this podcast too. But I'm excited to see who will just be listening to us.
I agree. If you've got
I'd
any
love
questions as
to
well,
hear
like
that.
other episodes you want us to go through, let us know. We'll get an email at some point once we figure out what the podcast is called. But
Good.
you can reach out to us on our Instagrams. I'm at Earth Cadet on Insta. Is that the best place for you as well, Bella? Instagram?
Yeah, Insta's fine. Balladeer.music is mine. So
Yeah.
We probably will make a joint Insta at some point for the podcast.
That'd be fun.
Yeah, thanks for the chat today. It's been good to start
it's been great. I wanted to end it just with a quick thing like, who are you listening to at the moment? Have you got a music recommend as we go out on this podcast?
Oh, I have a little bit. Let me just have a look at what I have been listening to. But I have been going back in time in the last couple recent past. I had a Perfect Circle back up, but I have been listening to Gracie Abrams a lot the last week. She's kind of blown up a lot, but I was more interested in because one of my goals is learning some guitar at the moment, so I wanted to be practicing some hammering on and that type of thing. So I've been listening to her, but yeah, I went back and listened to A Perfect Circle. But like I said to you, my listening habits need to be expanded. But yeah, I was listening to what year was it? The 2000 album, the year 2000. So it's 25 years old this year.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's made me feel
still really amazing though. Amazing vocals, amazing songwriting, beautiful guitars. Oh, just so dreamy.
It's the best. I love that.
What about you? What are you listening to?
I've been absolutely rinsing that band that I've mentioned before, Being Stellar. They're out in New York. They're a 5-piece post-punk, new wavy, interpol-y. I don't know how to describe them. It's an extremely like British sound for like an American band, but they're just there's a bit of shoegaze. There's a lot of kind of alt rock, and I have gone off to listen to other things and then come back to that album in a way that I haven't with a record in a long time. So yeah, that's my recommendation. The debut album, Scream from New York, New York. And Nilüfer Yanya. I've been listening to a lot of Nilüfer. I reckon you'd really dig Nilüfer, Bella.
Okay. Yeah, cool.
Especially with like interesting guitar things as well. She's a master of the instrument.
It's crazy. I really used to love people giving mixtapes, and now like no one sends music. So let's make
maybe we can do that. We'll also run we'll put together a little playlist that we update throughout the history of the podcast with like every time we put a what are we listening to recommend, we'll whack that in a playlist and you can follow that as well. And there might even be some songs from our acts as well, so that people can get familiar with us if they don't know who we are. But yeah, thanks so much for joining me, Bella. This is going to be fun. And I can't wait to get some guests on and chat.
Yeah, me too. It's gonna be
we were
good.
thinking next episode we were going to talk about gigs, like getting a gig, promoting a gig. It's a big topic, but I think as a venue owner, I'm ready to handle it because I got some things to say.
All right, I'm keen for that episode. All right, we'll say bye. Ciao.
Bye.